I've been seeing a question pop up a lot about how to build a printer, since that seems to be the best way to get ships working. Not get working, but to get ships built quicker. And I use them a lot. And I thought I would show a bunch of different versions and different takes on it that you could use that I've used over a lot of different servers and over the year or two that I've been playing Space Engineers. So let's talk about when we first start a welder ship. Then we'll start with the space pod, since that seems to be everybody's first ship. And it's always a good starting point. So we have a couple choices. And the first one is to turn your space pod into a welder. Normally, I wouldn't suggest doing this. We convert it to a station so that we can edit it without it breaking completely apart. A very bad habit of completely breaking apart. So if we take out this window, we can then add conveyors around the whole inside, which then gives us the ability to then add welders. Or if you're just starting out, you can always add drills. But for this, we're just talking about how to set up production so that you can build bigger ships. And then you just go through and start replacing blocks with extra cargo so that you can carry as much material as possible. And we can go all the way back here since we have all these extra spots that can connect to the main conveyors. And that gives you a pretty workable. This gives us a very basic welding ship. Lots of cargo, or if you're just starting out, this gives you all the basics that you need to do your production stuff. If we actually take off these, you can even attach a 6. You can add a refinery and an assembler. This is pretty standard fare for when you're just starting out. This gives you what you need to be able to build bigger ships or build a base. Very simple. Now, to set up the welders to work, it doesn't take a lot to them. And hit K to go into the main control panel. So you need to set up a group for your welders. And we just make a group called welders. That gives us two options. So we have a group. We can go in here. You just toggle them on and off. And then there's block tools, and we just right click on it to add it to our toolbar. So why do we do this? This gives us two different ways of working. So let's turn this back into a ship. So let's say you've been out mining, filling up your cargo with ingots and converting it to materials to build the ship. From here, we want to be able to control the welding by hitting 3 so that we're not using the group. This allows us to go into a projection and weld the stuff that we need to weld without hitting just the outside parts. I'll show you what I mean. So let's start with some economy shifts. So normally we'll start with a battery, because this has a control panel. We can make sure this is a station. Printing, just so that it's easy to find in our lists. We need to hit G. Do we have a projector? We do, actually. Let's go here. And with a projector, you want to have it's not anything that you have to have. It's something you want to notice with the way this is designed. So you'll see that most sides are blank, and you have a stripe on one side and kind of a plus symbol on the other. The plus is the bottom, and the line side here is the front. So keep that in mind. And that's all you really need to start welding. Not a lot. Battery and projector. And even for small grid, you can do the same thing. The small grid, you might need to use one or two, maybe two small batteries. But I've used one and was able to finish the print before it died. Because usually somewhere in your projector are batteries for the ship you're making. So once those batteries get made, it keeps the thing alive. So one battery. Now let's start with the large one. Show you how this works. We go to projector. We go to blueprints. Let's just go to, this is everything. Let's do a blue ambassador. Blue ambassador. Do we have blue ambassador in here? We got an assortment of different kinds. Odd. Let's just do that one. Let's start with this guy. Copy to clipboard. And let's take a look. So it is just a blue ambassador with a grinder on the front. That's fine. Now you'll notice that the projector has completely disappeared in the middle of this somewhere. So let's go see if we can find it. Actually, it's out in one of the wings. Now, to be able to actually weld this up, it needs to be attached to the projector. But it doesn't have to be in the middle. So we can push it forward just to get it out of the middle of this thing. And being right by an engine is bad, because as soon as the engine is welded and fueled, it'll probably burn a hole in this. And the reason I say fueled is a lot of times you want to add a little bit of fuel just to make sure that the fuel tanks, connector, and all your conveyors are connected out to the engines. You'll see the engines light up as they're connected to the fuel. So that's how you keep everything working correctly. So let's do a simple shift. Now, when I bring up my menu, I can see completely through it. You may not have this ability. So one thing you can do is you hit escape, options, game, you go to UI, and then the UI background. You can adjust this all the way down. I keep it at 0 because it's not really necessary. I can see all the buttons fine. So We do that, and now when we go in, we can still see the projector behind everything. If there's still a pain in the ass, you can always do a cockpit or a control seat, or even better would be a helm, because helms are cheap. If you have the DLC, if you don't have the DLC, just go with a control seat, doesn't matter. Usually you want one that can let you see past it, so I usually go with probably the flight seat, because the panel is the shortest. Let me put that there, and the same thing. And now we can go into third person view, which makes it even easier to make sure that our projection is as close as possible, but not in the way of us working and stuff. So now you notice that everything's transparent, but at a certain point, some areas you can see it kind of gets brighter. And what's happening is that stuff that can be welded will become bright, just to let you know it's buildable. So from here, we just add a block to attach the projection to the projector. And you can see it automatically made these blocks buildable. And that's another feature you can do, is to go to the projector and show only buildable. There'll be less clutter, and it allows you to see what you have to build. And I'm going to duplicate this because I want to show you why we use the two different states. So let's put this over here. Okay. Two different states of the welder. Now, normally, if we have the welders just turned on, it seems like a good way to do this. You can come in here, and this is creative, so obviously things will be instant. And what am I doing wrong? The welders are set to help others. Do I need to actually be carrying materials? I don't have any materials on me. Oops, let's try this again. Let's add a connector on to this. G connector. And brought a bunch of bases in. These will all be demonstrated a little later in the video. These are all stations I've built various times onto the various servers I've played on. So they should be properly full of material.
Going nowhere fast,
We'll click the spaceship so we only see our cargo. Go. And we will grab steel. Yep, grab all that. Grab some of that. Some of that. Some of that. That. I just grab a little of everything. Normally, oops, didn't need to grab missiles. It's taking up a lot of space. Do I have grids? I don't have grids or small. And we need a lot of tubes. No batteries. And do we take a lot of glass? And this is why we need all those cargo containers. This is barely going to touch all the stuff we have to build. Comp. 10, I think, is fine for, need a couple of those for the grab gen. There's, we need a ton of that. A ton of grids. Let's just start with this.
Where you're going, roads would have been preferable.
Then we'll fly back out. And let's see. I keep forgetting how slow the space spot is. But that's fine for welding. We don't want the welder to be too quick, because then you'll be slamming into your projections all the time. So this is the projector already loaded. And our welder should be able to weld up everything now. And there we go. Now, I like to start from the inside out. And you usually want to make sure everything gets finished. Now, see, this is the problem with having it always on. You can't quite control what it's building. And the thing we really want to do is we want to do the inside first. So let's just turn this off. Okay. So with this, we use the block control. With the block control, we can get right where we need to, and then turn on what we want. Go back, go inside the block. Okay. Then we can do this one. Of course, we're building everything instantly since it is partially creative. Actually, let's turn that off. I mean, you still get a lot of the same stuff. Oops, we got ourselves trapped. And see, this way you can kind of get yourself positioned correctly and then finally turn on everything to start welding. But we're going to need 15 to 20,000 steel plates, which I don't have enough on me. So this kind of welding ship works perfectly well. You could easily build this up and have a good idea of how long it's, not how long it's going to take. It gives you a, you can get it built pretty quick, I should say. And as soon as it's done, you just grind it off of your printer, not your printer, off of your projector, and you're good to go. It'll take you some time to build everything. And when you're trying to add materials to builds, you can still use your build planner. So I can go through here, add these 3 things. And if it was this ship, we just go in here and start up the production. And it would just add in everything you need. And you can check here to see how much of each material you need to build everything. Although, I still think we need quite a bit. 8,000 is probably about right. So, we're going to need about 56 tons of iron ingots. About 60,000 tons of iron would have to go line. So, you have a decent amount of material that they have to grab. Probably about the weight of that ship is how much material you're going to need. It usually measures out to about the same. So you're looking at about 200,000, 300,000 kilograms of materials to finish this. But if you have a base, then you pretty much do what I do, where you fly back to your base. Usually I have all of this parked right next to the base, or the projector directly on it. We're just going to go back to this one, since this has nice convenient connectors. Now, if your welder is your production base, you may have to just produce everything before you get started. So in this case, we don't have to worry about that. Now, since it's in the build planner, we can go here and withdraw components. So just make sure that you have your ship selected over here. You hit this, and then it says cannot withdraw 60 tubes. And then I can just go to the base assembler and set it to builds. And we're done. Go here. And there we go.
Brakes off. Engaging hydraulics.
Now, if you're just starting out, you can queue up all the material you need. And once it's queued up, as long as you have enough materials for it to produce it, you can sign off, come back the next day and see if it's done. Because normally it takes quite a while unless you got a huge number of refineries. Not refineries, a huge number, well, refineries to get the materials made, and then assemblers to turn it all into components. This all selected. Oops, that also did that. We also got the materials for this jump drive, which should be able to push that up. Yep. So one of the harder parts to deal with is getting all the material into your assembler. So to queue up everything that you would need, I normally will add a projector. Oh, let's do that. Creative tools back on, just so I can get this done real quick. Control panel, show in toolbar and terminal, and just turn everything off. So you have them right next to each other, so it's easy to jump back and forth. So now we have 52 armor blocks. We go to assembler over here. We click on the larger blocks or small blocks if you're doing a small grid. Small grids take a little bit more work. So let's start with this. We go to the armor. And armor blocks, we need 52 of these. Now, if you hold down control, you get 10 at a time. Whoop, 100. Cancel. So if we need 10, actually that is correct. That's 10, 20, 30, 40, 1, 2, 42, 52. Need another 10. Then we need ion thrusters, production, ion. And as you can see, this takes a while to do. We just need regular ones. How many do we need? We need 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as we go through, it'll load up what's required. And so you know what you actually have to go out and farm for. So by the time you're done, you'll have a really good idea of what stuff is needed to build all of this. And let's just let's take all this out. Okay, so then you go through the list and you add everything, and eventually you will end up with this entire list and a list of all the materials you'll have to go collect. A lot of this you may have. Iron you'll have to grab a lot, and so on. And there you go. That's what you need to do for setting up your production and welding up your ship. And of course, some of you are probably saying, you set up the space pod instead of the Blue Ambassador. And I would say, yes, you are correct. But the information is still the same. You just do it the right way. We'll check your stuff. Blue Ambassador Mark II Scavenger. That's a 551 armor blocks. This is a lot heavier. So again, you're going to go back through and add your items. You're normally not going to have this little tab. This is through a plugin. But there you go. You're going to need 192,000 kilograms of iron ingots to make all of this. So a little more stuff. So you'll spend a lot more time mining, but not so bad. Probably the worst is going to be cobalt and iron. Everything else you can go back and forth. Gravel you'll get just from doing the stone. I may have to do another video on making a small production ship. But that's the basics. You go through, add them in. Once it's all built, you go through and start working on welding up the whole ship. It shouldn't take you more than 2 hours, maybe, once you get the hang of it. With a printer, it'll take you maybe about half that time, but you can get more done at once since you're using 5 welders, and it kind of you don't get all the little snags and get caught in the structure as you're welding up stuff. Hence also the reason why we use that piece of glass in the front. If we use the glass in the front of this the same way, you would wind up, that glass is probably loose now since everything holding it on was that light. So let me just re-add it. So if we go here and add this, so the whole point of this is to keep stuff from snagging on us when we're trying to weld stuff. So we'd still weld the same way. We still do everything the same way. It just keeps everything simplified. Do I still have this thing copied? Let's see. Control V. I do. So let's print this out just to show why we're adding the glass. Now, let's get rid of that projection. Off. We were just using the projection to count components we need. So that's all done. Now the benefit of this is I can weld up those back pieces without accidentally welding up the front. So I can go through here, slide up, get the bits I want done exactly how I want them. And this is exactly how the printer works. So if you want to get really simple, this is a version of the printer without all the extra material. See, it's a lot easier time. We don't get snagged. We don't get caught in material. You'll probably have to use your third-person view to see everything. But you save yourself a lot of headaches. Probably better just to rotate this way since the ship seems to be more in this position. So now, see, we now have the beginnings of a print table. You go through and get everything printed. Are we out of? But we were out of components. Now, with this, it only gets to one block, so no matter how close I get, I can't go through this one to get the other one. You used to be able to, but they changed the way this works. And your glass may get broken from time to time, bouncing around like this, but it's alright. It's glass, easy to replace. Quickly done. Now, you always want to do the interior. You may get tempted just to go, oh, I'll just weld this up. But if you do that, then you risk having parts in the middle here that are undone, and then you'll have to be digging through an entire ship just to find those unwelded blocks. So take your time, do it in layers. Or if you're doing without this table built to the front, you want to do the interior first, the middle, and then work your way out, so you make sure you get everything. It's always better to plan things out, give it a little bit of thought, or as I say, measure twice, cut once, or in this case, analyze twice, weld once, just so you don't have stray blocks floating around on the inside. And this is a perfectly valid welder. You may not even need a welding table to or a full printer, at least for some of the ships, at least something this size. This is easily doing it. Now, I actually had to weld this up. This would have been about 3 or 4 minutes of work, 5 minutes, if I had all the materials loaded up. If I have to keep running back and forth, maybe 10, 15 minutes. But in that case, that's where you go to these dedicated welding ships. So at some point you'll get to you'll make a ship that's just a dedicated welder. It's just welding materials and cargo containers. And this is hydrogen just so that it works a little faster. Let's see if I have one free. Yep. We got a couple sitting around here. Just grab one. Debris. And this is the same thing. Now, this has grinders on it so that as I'm working, we can grind off parts that get in the way. And if you want to weld faster, you could swap out the 2 grinders for 2 more welders. Then you'll be welding twice as much, twice as fast. And this is what happens when you just have the welders on going in. So again, it becomes a pain in the ass trying to get in to get these inner parts. See, I can't even reach it now because there's other stuff in the way. So you always want to do the middle first. Always, always, always. Take a moment to figure out where the middle is and work your way toward it. So in this case, I'll have to grind off these engines here to get back in. And yes, if you have to, don't be afraid to do this. It'll make your life so much easier to work your way forward. There we go. And now I can get it to weld. But again, the table is the better way to do this. But with having a dedicated ship that has hydrogen, it's a little more maneuverable. You have a little more control. Just means you have to run back and grab fuel every once in a while. So this gives you a chance to see both in action. You can choose which style you want. You want a table on the front, just a dedicated welding ship. Again, leave a comment depending on, let me know which ones you like better. But this has the same benefit that you can set up a table in the front. The only problem is, of course, your grinders won't work since they'll have something in the way. And the reason I go one out is that it's just a little over 1 block in radius with the welders, so we want to make sure that it doesn't catch it on the edge, which will then get us stuck. But this has the same benefit. Is this going to... Well, luckily it won't grind itself, so it won't grind our own ship. But I don't know if it'll grind. I think on the other side of the glass. Nope. Oh, never mind. I was wrong. It actually will grind through the glass. What do you know? I stand corrected. Fun little thing I never noticed. Yes, normally the welders will work through the glass. Or did I just bug everything up because I'm trying to grind through them? Odd. They seem to have bugged something. Oh, and it's still in creative. So it should still work as long as I have materials. Let's take a look. Welders. Yeah, they're there. Nope, they're all owned by me, so that is not an issue. You know what it might be? might be out of PCU. So we're making too many things here. So let's just delete some stuff. Let's see. G. No, I have 200,000 left. So what would be causing this? You know what? Let's solve this, because this is the kind of things that you run into when you're actually doing this in the game. And let's turn off creative tools. Let's just weld normally. So without creative, does this cut? No, it doesn't cut through anything. Now I got plenty of steel and other materials. And you need steel. So let's get steel. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Steel. Can I? Interesting. I can't even weld it. What happened? So let's take the projector. Oh. That's what. It's a phantom. See? And that's why I like to debug. Take your time. So that's one of those weird issues where you delete the... You don't delete it, but you either lose power or something happens to the projector, but it's still counted as showing the grid, so you don't realize it's not there anymore. But it won't let you weld it. So that's what was stopping us. So there you go. One of the other tips to problem solve. So let's just go back to creative, just so that we can do this a little quicker. But so it works the same. And I just keep holding the view key so that I can rotate around without it accidentally rotating the ship. Keep that finger locked so that your camera rotates, but not your ship. You want to keep your ship parallel to the surface you're welding. Take your time. Eventually, you will get it done. Of course, this is instantaneous, but normally it would be 20-30 minutes of welding and checking things. Oops. But just out of curiosity, can I actually grind down? Yeah, it is grinding. It's slow, but working. Okay, so there you go. You can wind and weld and grind through glass. The only benefit of not having the glass, which I'm just going to remove that centerpiece, is that did I get rid of this? No, I didn't. What the hell did I remove? Probably a light or something. So the benefit of not having anything in the way is that you get close to a block. You can't do it because too much stuff is in the way. So let's copy this over. Delete the thing holding everything on. Oops. Let's hit this. 4. Remove that. And the benefit is that just like when you're flying around with your welder, the welder selected, you should be able to highlight a block. Can I do it in this ship or maybe not? Yep, there it is. I can add it to the build planner. You just have to get very close. And if I hit G, it brings up the menu I can't see, but if I get out of the ship and hit G, see, I've added all those blocks. And then I can go through, attach to a ship that has the parts, load it up, and continue welding. I can't place blocks from the cockpit, but you can add stuff to the build planner. It's really useful. So that is the weld ships. You're probably asking, well, what about printers? Well, let's go to a printer. Let's start with the most basic ship we can make. And that red one right over there is the one I'm thinking of. Right now, I think on EU2s, I'm using this ship. And with EU, what's going on is it is just a block of production. There's no attempt at being streamlined or anything else. It is started out probably over here in this block with just some batteries, a refinery, things to attach it all together. And over time I've been adding more refineries, more tanks, more fuel, more material. And I think it just has a cockpit just slapped on top of it. It really doesn't have much in the way of style to it. It really is just a bunch of stuff just slapped together. And this is using a projector here to project this. Now, for some ship like this, the weld table ship is probably the best one to use. But we want to use a printer. So let's look at that. We're going to turn the projector off, control panel. Sometimes for testing purposes, it's useful to have a connector that can come up onto your print table, just so that you can hook up the conveyors and see if fuel is getting to everything. And actually scratch that because, well, the ship is not going to be attached to this. We can actually get rid of this whole thing. Start this over. Okay, so this is just a basic ship. And again, we're going to use the same idea of the build table, except this time the welders will be part of a base, and the base won't move. Instead, the projector itself will move. So it's taking the same idea. Why is this not rotating? Changing colors instead. And we're going to G conveyors. Now you have two choices. You can use the square one, the narrow one, or the armored one. If you have the armored ones, you can use those. But I think you might have to have the DLC to get them. So instead, just use these. These are perfectly fine. Here, add that. That. And we're trying to get to 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth one will go there. 8. Okay, so this gives us a 5 that we normally have. And again, we can just use 4. Not waste a PCU. Is we got to set up the print table above it. Again, so that you don't have stuff snag. Let's find that window. Gee, let's find the 3x3s. Window. Because you can use the small ones, but using the 3x3 is just so much easier. And there we go. And there's at least one block around them, we're good. And there is, we're fine. Okay. So this is our print table. And it works the same way. We sit here, go to the welders, we just turn them on. And there you go, you got a print table. See, very simple, very easy. Of course, we got a big solar panel in the way. You do have that, you'll just have to keep that in mind, that you don't slam into it when you're working on stuff. Now, for a print table, this is why we have this projector attached to this ship. We can go here, turn on that projector. Is there a ship already in it? Let's just add, oh yeah, there is. That's a pretty damn big ship. And something that big, I would not try to do on this print table. I mean, with a little bit of acrobatics, you probably could, but it would be a miserable experience. So let's just go with something a little smaller. Let's do... let's do the blue ambassador. So that's what we're doing. But, I mean, you could do any ship. That's fine. Vertical. Again, you remember you want to have this transparent. So, then use third person. And try to get this as close as possible. Well, the idea is not close as possible. The idea is that you want to get it lined up with something that you can attach a block to. So the whole point is you're going to be taking a block, sticking out of here, far enough, 2 for hydrogen, 3 for ion, depending on what type of ship you're using. I suggest hydrogen because your projection ship is going to be a lot smaller. And at some point, it's going to wind up with 1 million tons of some other ship that it has to yank around. And it's better for it to have as much thrust as possible. So hydrogen's better. But if you're running out of fuel, you may have to wrap a connector around to the side so that you can refuel, since this will be in the way. But as you do this, you'll figure out the correct layout of stuff to do the stuff that you want. It's only complicated at the beginning. Once you get the hang of it, it gets very fast. And there's no maximum length. You can, as long as it's under the max range, it's like 20 or 30 or 40, I think. So offset. Do that and then come over. I think I'm right in the middle of the window. The window's on the outside, but I can do one over and up, and I can connect to that part right between the glass. So let's go K. Because the glass is being held on by, you can see inside that there's a, can we see it from here? I just saw it. You can faintly see that there's a catwalk holding where the glass would be. So that would be what's holding the glass in. So there shouldn't be anything above and to the side. So let's see if we can get over and up one. Projector. Yeah, finding that right spot is be the hardest part. Yep. 2. So there we go. We're above it. And we want to go one over. So, whoop, too much. 2, 7, right in the middle. Boom. It's getting the glass, but it's not getting the block behind it. Don't know why, but that'll work. Good enough. So with this setup, we can just fly over. Now, because of the solar projector, we will have to at some point rotate this. Whoop. We'll have to rotate the entire design so that puts it sideways. Okay, so we really want to have this practically against the glass because we want to align it as much as we can. Okay, almost. There we go, right above it. This is right up against the glass. Now, just make sure your printer is a station so that it doesn't drift away from you when you bang against it, because you will bang against it a lot. And one thing you can do, G, is to lock your rotor. Which one is this? That's 3. We're just going to do override. So if I hit 6, I'm now locked. If I move my mouse around, it doesn't, I can't rotate the ship. I can still move, but it just won't rotate. And now that keeps it aligned to the printer, which makes it a lot easier to print stuff. So now we just start extruding out. Make sure it gets all the pieces that we can get in here. Slide up and down. And it's pretty much doing the same thing the weld ship does, but you see we're just kind of doing it in reverse. We're moving the projection around instead of the welder. And that's the only difference between a weld ship and a projector. It's the same thing, just in reverse. Uh-oh, what happened? Look, something's going on. I can't move. Is there a magnet or something that I'm missing? No. Oh, that's not even built. Whoop. Get away from the welders. Ouch. So, earlier in the video, I mentioned how to add sensors. So, I'm going to jump back to the sensor part. Go back in and make sure it's done, especially for interior blocks. One thing you may want to do is set up a sensor to auto turn these off when you get close, so that way you can get in there and get inside of spots. And the sensor is pretty easy to do. Actually, I'll do it right here. So that way you can see what's involved. G sensor. Anywhere in the middle is fine. And where is these over here? Base. View over here. Okay. We have an antenna. Sensor field area. Oh, sensors. Show on HUD. Oh, perfect. Show on HUD shows us. That's not covering much. So, let's do step to the left, step to the right. Anywhere in the front. This one. A little above it, so that seems to be 2.6, so we need about a block, 2 blocks, so that's 5 meters, so 7.5. Is this 7? Set up an action. Roots. Do we have the welders? Yep. We're going to toggle the blocks off when I walk into them, and when I walk out, I'm going to toggle them back on. And that's it. Very simple. And we can turn off show on HUD. If we did this right, it should turn off. Get over there. Oh, let's go inspect. And it turns off. We can go in, fix the welding, do other stuff we have to do, and then back out. So yes, you want that sensor in there. You'll die so much less. Especially when it takes a while to weld something. You may need to go in there and fix it. Especially the interior connectors and other internal pieces. Use one. But for some reason, this got locked in position. I've lost all control. So, I've lost all control. Why is that? Well, it's obvious. The other control seats got made, and one of them is the master. So that's another case of something you got to watch out for. So let's turn this back on. So this is all the kind of stuff that you got to deal with when you're building. So let's do seats. Nope, control. Why is it not showing me anything? And it was this control seats. Light seat. There you go. Let's see, that one is main cockpit. There we go. And I'm back in control again. So that's some of the stuff you have to watch out for. And you will run into. And here's another common problem. You have dangling bits that don't attach to your main structure. So for this, you just want to add something to attach. Means you'll have to repair it later, but for now, I like to use the flat panel because they're cheap. And usually, yep, it's enough. They're easy to grind off and see around. That one I can't melt. And this is going to have kind of the same problem. It's not going to get printed because it's not connected at the time the rest of this is getting built. So let's add a block here too. Two. And back we go. Nope, not enough. What happened? Does it not have enough material? Probably that panel isn't set up right. But again, that's... you have to gauge if it's worth all the extra aggravation of sitting there trying to figure out one little piece. That's on the outside, easy to find. It can be left until the end to be repaired by when you do the rest of the other fixes. Because we saw that there was a light bulb and some other stuff that was missed. Yeah, that light up here will have to be repaired. This probably can now be added. For whatever reason, that didn't satisfy the connection. I guess the bottom edges are kind of rounded. But that's the kind of thing you discover as you're printing stuff. That some stuff that seems obvious and should connect doesn't actually fit the way you think it does. And all of this is doable on NA1. You could easily build that tiny little base. Let's see how much. It's 6,000 PCU, and that's the base plus the ship, which has been modified to... this is just a space pod. Same one we were just using, except I put a cockpit on the bottom and added 5 drills. And then this can fly around and get as much as it needs. I don't know if this is the one that has the jump drive. No, it doesn't have a jump drive. But that's fine. And again, it has the refineries and assembler in here, although I put them in the middle instead of out the edges. But again, it's meant to all be contained within the silhouette of the ship, so that way it can fit in the hole that this drills. So there you go. All right. I'm not going to do any more of this, but get the idea. It's very easy to do. All these ships all would fit within your PCU budget for 2K, 20K. Yeah, once you get uranium, you can cut off the... you can cut the motors off of these, not the motors, the solar panel.
Excuse me, you said you could drive?
That's a plug-in. It's doing that. So this is 3. So that's 3K, that mining ship. This is another 3K for this ship. So that's not too bad. And that has jump drives, so this base can be jumped around. It has quite a number of fuel tanks and is easily extendable. Huge amounts of cargo. Should have 2 or 3 assemblers on it. That's 1 and 2 snuck into here on the side. And each one of those modules on the site counts as a assembler. So that's 5 at the other one. And then 8, 9, 10, 11. And here's another 3. So that's 14. So it's quite a lot of production. It could churn out a huge amount of material very quickly. And I could easily add another one in here with an attachment, and another one in here, a little bit of tweaking with an attachment. So you can get a lot of production out of a very small ship. And a blue, what is this? A blue Ambassador is about 5,000 PCU. So again, it's all doable. Now, one of the gotchas with the projection is the projection itself costs PCU. It costs 1 PCU per block. So that ship that I'm projecting right now is 806 blocks. That means it's using up 806 PCU. And you could easily hit a situation where you're very low in PCU and you do a projection, and then you go to weld it and it won't weld because the projection itself used up the last of your PCU. Keep that in mind, especially if you're doing larger battleships with 2,000-3,000 piece blocks in it. You could very easily run out of PCU just from the projection. Then you'll have to sit there and have to either delete grids or turn off the projection and hand weld stuff. It becomes a great pain in the ass trying to solve PCU issues when you're trying to do projection printing. But you definitely want to keep the PCU in mind when you're welding up a projection. And always count the number of blocks that the projection is as additional PCU that it's going to cost. So even if you see it in a workshop for 19,000 PCU and you're like, perfect, leave me 1,000. If it uses 2,000 blocks, then you won't have enough. Even if it has 1,001 blocks, it'll be 1 over. Again, can't print it. All things to keep in mind. So now we come to welder ownership. Now, welders are an unusual block. Depending on who created the block, that's the person who will own the grid that's welded. So if I make these welders and then assign them, usually you go into control panel and you'll be working with faction mates and you say, oh, I'll just give it to Wrecker. I'll assign it to this guy. And he'll take it and he'll go and weld with it. And the PCU doesn't go to him, even though he owns the grid. It goes to the person who created it. So since I'm the author of it, see it says built by Chai, that means it's going to go to me. So always keep that in mind. Even when you transfer the grid to somebody else, it will still assign the PCU to you, to the person who created it. So you always want to make sure that you own the welders that are building your ship. And if they're not, if you have a faction mates use their welders, then make sure that they then assign the grid portion they built back to you. Otherwise, if they go and start deleting extra grids, not knowing what it is, you could suddenly lose half your ship. Or if you leave the faction, suddenly you'll find that the part they built you no longer have access to since you're not part of the faction. And you have to sit there and weld and hack everything. So it becomes a pain in the ass. And that covers everything you need to know to get started and some more advanced techniques. And I think from here I will show you some of the other printers and how they work. But these are probably the simplest printers you can make. And the most functional. This is probably the first one. And honestly, it's the most over-engineered. It's cool looking and great for a single player, but for a server, it is completely over-engineered. But I'll show you how this works. So this uses the large 3x3 windows to form most of the structure of it. I didn't wind up getting enough glass to actually fill in all of these. And it's kind of wasteful to do it that way. It's easier just to add a bunch of simple ones. Simple frames just to add some interest to it. Then let's go inside. But the whole mechanism, the idea behind it is to draw the ship up through the floor where we have rows of welders. This is from the Sigma Draconis server. So they have, I think, 15 welder limit. If you're on Keen, you can only use 5, so you're just going to use 4. I mean, you'll use the center one plus the 4 to the to either side. So this will work on both. Because the idea is that it'll rotate, so it's close to centered. So it should be able to hit both sides, and you should be fine. Oops. Kill myself on the wall. All right. So let's go inside, and I'll show you the basic idea behind this. So you have a piston that has a rotor on the end. You could put everything on top of the rotor, but I'd rather put as little weight on the rotor itself as possible. And on the rotor are 2 projectors. Well, let's go out there and take a look. I kind of missed that part. So we're looking at a rotor. It could just be a basic rotor. Doesn't have to be the advanced. Doesn't matter. Projector. And then I also have another rotor with a small head, so I could put a small projector in case I want to do fighters. And fighters usually I don't have to rotate. I can just extrude it straight out. Usually I just have this rotate until it's centered over this and then just draw out a block so that the projector can attach. And that is one of the things with projections. It has to attach to the actual projection. You can see how the projection disappeared because it has to be buildable for it to appear. So it means it must be connected to the welder somehow. So in this case, we're going to use a block, attach it, at which point we can see this one block becomes buildable. Once this is built, it will allow you to build the rest of the windows and the rest of the ship will come out of it. I have creative mode partially on, so it should weld it instead of just making it appear. And it does. But it is currently too low for it to weld. So what happens is we raise this have it set to a slow speed. And once it gets high enough, it will start to print it. And then we can lock it in place so that we can give it time to build out the pieces. But in this case, it auto builds everything since the creative mode is on. But normally you would stop out at each level, make sure everything's welded. If things get missed, you actually go out with your welder and you check it. Make sure everything's built. Something gets missed, you go out there and weld it, or get a welding ship. Then from here, you just keep going, level by level. And again, it's a line, so you just have to wait for blocks to rotate around. The speed it rotates depends on how long it takes to weld. This is instant just because I have the creative mode on, but normally it takes a couple seconds, so that's why this is set to such a slow speed. Also gives you time to go in, check the interior, try not to go over the welders so you don't get yourself killed. And since I'm doing larger grid and rotating it, the gap between the welders doesn't really stop it from working. It works perfectly fine. Now, the reason some blocks can get missed is if you have them attached to larger blocks like what would you call them? The cargo or fuel tanks, or even refineries and other such things like that, where they don't quite fit in. That's another case where you'll have to go in and hunt down the blocks, figure out what didn't get printed. And the reason these things are sparking is because there's a buildable block here. Well, a block that it wants to try to build, so it's sparking, but it doesn't actually, it's not capable of building it, so. And that's the basic idea behind all these printers. You're going to raise them row by row. And this is a perfectly valid way of building it. This works. Very nice. Very high tech. But it requires a huge amount of PCU. If we try to copy this, this is 16,000. Probably, it has another base attached to it that just has all my cargo. I just kind of attach it to this. Plus this has no production. This is just a module to attach to some other station. So in this case, it's about 8,000. So very expensive. Then the next kind you can make, which is probably cheaper, is to rotate the welders. So let's start looking at the second one. So after I did this, and I went over to the Keen servers and needed something a lot smaller, 8,000 PCU printer is super extravagant and it doesn't even give you production. So it would be close to 16, which is pretty much all your PCU just to make a printer that can't actually print anything since 4,000 PCU is basically about the size of that nose whatever ship that's printing. So I went with something a lot smaller. This is a very simple base. A couple of jump drives and fuel containers, and all the rest is production. And this entire thing is 5,000, almost a third, and gives you a lot of the same functionality. So instead of you having a big crane that rotates, this uses an arm that rotates. This arm's a bit slow, but again, we build it through setting up the blocks to attach. And again, you have to watch out to not get yourself incinerated by your own welders. You'll find that you wind up doing that pretty often. You know what? Since this is auto printing, as soon as it touches it, we're going to speed up the rotor. Let's see what it's set to now. Minus 30. Set it to minus 1. And this gives you the same functionality instead of the top rotating. Just wait for the arms to rotate around to get to you. Now, this is fine, but sometimes if the arm misses, you gotta wait for it to come all the way back around. It becomes kind of tedious. So this works. It's quite viable. One thing you could do is set your overrides for your gyro to turn them on, so that way your ship is locked in its heading. So that way you don't have the same problem I'm having where it's kind of drifting. It'll keep it locked in position, and as you fly out, you know that it'll always hit the right spots. And with the gyro locked, it's guaranteed to give you the same kind of quality as the other one for sort of the price.
Powering down Seaforth.
Oops, that's the wrong key, obviously. G, gyros. That's fine. Override. Rotate it, but I don't need to. So I don't know if you saw what I did, but I backed up until it touched the glass so that I know that it's perfectly aligned to it. So I can just do that again just to make sure it stays aligned, and then fly up, let it finish building that layer. Just work your way through it. Now, if you notice, there's a spot here. It's kind of a tail section that's beginning to poke through. So, if you ever built old model kits and you had a spruce that attached all these other little bits so that plastic could get to them, you have to do kind of the same thing here, where you're trying to add enough material that it's supported so that the welders can weld it. Oop, almost. There we go. And so you can see it works. Backlight. Yes, it did. This is a case where yep, that works. Save time. So you see how that works. Very simple. It works. There's a couple of issues with it, with you having to wait for the welders to come back around. Okay. So this is my current base. You find something like this on NA1. And let's duplicate it. See what we get. Just under 9. So it's about half the cost of the whole production system. And this uses completely different system than the other two. This uses just a line, again with the glass sealed in, nothing else around. But instead of us going around, oops. And having all the rotors and everything else, we skip all of that. And the ship itself, we can just set override on this. Here it is. Gyro. Then I'll turn it on. It did turn it on. There it is. Again, to stop you from being able to wobble. So long as you're above the printer, you should be good to go. And the benefit of this is that you can do a little bit of maneuvering to get the portioning done. And I can see that this layer's done. Another benefit of this is you can pop out and take a look at what it's building, fix anything that's missing. But this is a little low, so it can't quite build anything. And you can see where we have the problem of ruster. Stopping a lot of stuff from being built. Starting to build.
That looks painful, and yet you maintain full mobility. Curious.
Yes, I pride myself on the welders. Expect to do that a lot. See, this is a case of where you'll have to go back and re-weld stuff, because this is attached to a block that's not built yet, so you gotta wait. Yeah, and that's a case where you'll also have to go in to fix, what would you call them, conveyors and other blocks attached, and gyros. Gyros are another one that's a big pain in the butt to do because they only attach on one side, so it's very easy for them to get missed. There we go. Sadly, I'm gonna go closer to the middle because right now what I'm projecting is kind of narrow, and that's another reason I like doing it this way is I can stop the rotation at any point. Let's fix this. This is gyro 4. On, off. So at any point, why is this not? Gyro 4. So override. So I can turn off the gyro. And just fly back and forth over this as well. For smaller ships, I almost always just do the flyover. I'll have the back of the ship instead of the bottom where I can reach it. Just do it layer by layer and just fly back and forth across this, and it does it perfectly well. You can assume I spent a couple minutes going through and checking all the stuff. This is doing it instantly, so it saves time. And again, there's a piece here we can't build. So this is a piece again where you'll have to go through and add old bits. And as you can see here, this is inside of the block that's supposed to be there. So we'll have to wait until we weld down further and then add it back in. Oh. This is a workshop ship. So, I've never welded this before. Very interesting. It'll work. It's interesting. Not a way I would have done it, but hey. Probably for the server, I would redo this back to be able to make it more of one piece. You'll see that as you work on ships from the workshop, that you'll have to tweak them so that they're better for printing. Or you will attach points so you don't have too many dangling bits like this is, so that way you can easily print it up. Now, go to the next layer. Slower, but I like this because you get a lot more control over what's getting printed. section of the ship. We just go through and now it's just bigger. It's a gun. That's why it's not doing it yet. Rushing through this. Normally, you would pop out at each layer, just make sure anything that gets missed. All right, so this is not that advanced a design. It's pretty simple. It's just 5. A connector in between each. I went with the armored ones just so I can put blocks on top of them if I need to. Usually I'll have to put a block here to cover the glass, but this glass kind of sticks over, so it's fine. Okay. So other than those, this is a smaller version of a printer. This is a Blue Ambassador. It's been heavily modified. And we were doing a lot of ship PvP, well, fighter PvP. So I made a small printer on the bottom, just 2 sheets of glass, 3 welders, and it's just for welding fighters. So we go in here and turn this on, and there's a fighter there. Let's see if it's good. It's not. So we just add blocks. And why is it not working? So it's large. And again, we want to get out to all the. There we go. This is a bit low to do the bottom blocks. They're offset. Okay. Rotor. The rotor offset. Rotor fighter. Rotor's replacement.
Where you're going, roads would have been preferable. Really? This isn't even
so
near
that I can see. There's the what's going on. Rotor fighter. Normally, I'm not sure why this is sunk down so much. But you just raise it up one and do the printing. But it uses the same principle as the other one. this is, we got some bottom engines. The only problem is this doesn't have ion. It actually has one ion in the back, but normally with this, if it has ion engines, you have your rotor with the projector on it. You would just detach this, and then you just fly the ship, flip it over, the top of it up against the printer head. And then you can fly back, reattach the rotor head. But this is a case of you not having a small grid ship at all, so you use this way to get it started. And it's effective, it works, and unless you have something like this where it's embedded into the ground. I'm not sure why this is so off, but this is an old design. It's possible that it was shifted. So you just lift it up one block and just reprint it. Which... Oh, so that's another thing with this. This one has 3 different, well, actually it's more than 3. It's 4. But normally it has 3 different projectors down there. And then I just bring up whichever one I want to print up. So there's a tiger, a tug, and a welding ship. Here, tug. Actually, I'll do the tiger. So turn that off. The next one. Very nice. Not what we're looking for at the moment. Very well done. The welding ship is used for traveling to the moon, doing repairs in orbit. But these are all definitely printable. Now this one, the foot comes down, but it's the only piece that extends down into the glass. So I usually wind up printing it and then just add a leg to it later on. So usually it's not a huge hassle. We just turn on the rotor. And that's it. The reason it's still welding is because of the leg on the bottom. Whoa.
Engineer, I am legally obliged to inform you that you are failing to survive.
Yes, noticed. Projector. Do I have one in here? Oop. Watch out for those welders. Just inside. Let's go back here. Yep. Engines. Well, not engines. So you can see how this works. Very simple design, very easy to make. And if we detach this piece over here, it's very easy to flip this over. Pretty much all the engines are already built. Small. And with projectors, you want to check well, you want to check build progress, the number of blocks, to see how many are left. So there's 2 reactors, interior light, window. The window and camera stuff is all that little stuff at the top corner. So basically you just look at the number of items left. You can go through and you can decide if you want to take it off or finish up the pieces. Sometimes there's lights and stuff you can add yourself. You don't need the projector. The old pieces. Projection inside a projector. I guess that's it. This thing, yeah. I think that's going to be left is for your lights and the landing gear. The landing gear we can't do anything about. The lights are side. Oh, this is for going underground. The cave builds. So it has a lot of extra lights on it to be able to make it down. Yeah, see, there's a light underneath. So this is a case where it's done. We can cut it off, fly it all away. Ship, and we can go on our cells and add a landing gear, but this is a pre-warfare ship, so they didn't have the mag plates, so we can just add those in. There you go, perfectly working ship. This is the base I have on NA3, and with this, instead of making a welding ship, after I got this built, I went to just making the projection my printer. And that may sound odd, but let me explain. So we don't have a print table, and we don't have a ship to either print or weld. So what we can do instead is turn our projection into the actual welder itself. And for this, we're just going to make sure our creative mode is off, because it kind of makes things a little weird. And let's make sure we have some elite tools. And we'll grab one of each. When you're doing this kind of work, it's better just to leave all the other tools out of the way. You're not going to need them. And for production, this is the full production base, so I can probably do projector. We'll do the main one. And with this, we have an entire list of assemblers, so we'll go to assembler 0. And we'll queue up everything there, since that is the one that will send all the rest of our... Oh, we have that set to disassemble. Let's try it again. Send to assembler. Production. Here we go. 14,000. And if you have stuff that it needs less of, you can always rearrange your production. We got just about 10 assemblers. Well, 9. Right? Yeah, 9 of them. 0 plus 8. Didn't mean to click that. Those are for jump drives. There's only 3 of those. Let's move those up. A lot of this other stuff should already be done. Okay. So we have production going. Again, that's using a plugin. You can always use, just go through by hand, like I've shown before, and just select them all. So turning this into a printer itself. So what we're going to try to do is print every block using a welder that we attach right to this point. So let's just make sure we have a welder selected. And we'll go through. Oops. Go here. We got all the parts we can carry. And we're going to try to see how much we can add and build right from this point. That's about right. Can I see through this to the thing? I can't. Okay. Control panel. Turn it on. And it can build right off the side. Get that one done, just so it has something to work from. And the beauty of this way is you don't need a printer. It is a little slower, but it's still faster than hand welding all this stuff yourself. So you go through, and the great thing is, while that's busy doing that, you can go into production and see how everything's going. Rearrange stuff according to what you see needed. And one way I do this is I just check to see what's in here. I'll drop in each part. If it sits there, it means it doesn't need it at the moment, so that's fine. Check those are fine. How about those? Those are fine. And you get the drift. Pretty simple.
Power low. Disconnecting browser. Disabling Netflix.
I think running out of power. And that's another plugin that changes the normal Goodbot voices to a rather humorous, butlerish kind of Jeeves AI. It's a change of pace. I like it. Okay, so that's all done as much as it could get to. So we're going to rotate it slightly and let it do a different direction. And we're rotating it over to this side. And I see. Should not have got the stuff. Oh, that's because this is pretty big. Let's see. Can I get to the welder? Oh, there. There's only one there. Now, the great thing about this is that in the end, we'll have 1, 2, 3 blocks that it can't weld. And you could actually put a second or even third welder doing more blocks. But the only reason I don't do that is a lot of times it will get lost, and at some point you'll be somewhere down the line wondering why stuff isn't connecting. Yeah, that's correct. And this is actually using parts that are actually in the system. This isn't using creative. It actually has to weld this all up. And you can see it's doing a pretty decent job. I mean, it's slowing down because it's doing an entire jump drive. But, I mean, it is pretty fast. Very effective. It saves you from having to do as much. This is a case where it would have been better to have everything already done, but since we're demonstrating, we'll cheat. Put in Shift F10. Nope. What happened?
You do realize I'm the one keeping you alive. Maybe you should keep my battery topped up with that in mind.
There it is. It's not creative mode. So let's just do superconductor. So we'll put 6,000 in there. Spawn target container. And while we're there, we will do reactors. Just to save some time. And 15,000 steel plates. Steel plates. Steel. Yep. So now we can go to production. Assembler. Take those out. Take that out. And the reactors we can take out. Should have added batteries, but that's fine. Okay. So normally you would have all that built ahead of time. I want to keep that off as much as possible, just so you can see how long stuff actually takes. That's closed. That's sealed. Okay. So that entire block is all done. Now it's kind of hard to see stuff. So one thing I will do is use a timer. The timer, every couple of seconds, will just turn off the projection.
Your energy is critical. I'll come back when it's a disaster.
I think I need to stop for some power. There is a place to charge up on top, but since I didn't paint it very well, I don't see it. So we're just going to go here. All right, no. Let's try again at the front. Red marks the bridge. So this is an effective way. It gets things moving along. Already got a good chunk of ship built right there. It's like the main core of it, which is very nice. All right, fully charged. Back in we go. And 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it right here, facing back that way toward the zone. How come it's not showing up? It's the wrong grid size here. Just put it there. And control panel, turn it on. What's going on? Oh, well, it's not connected to anything. Wrong spot. Let's try that one right there. 9. Yep. Control, turn on. Don't tell me that one doesn't have materials either. Are these all reactors here? Cargo. Nope, these all reactors. And they are not connected directly into that. Go figure. So we have to turn them around. And that's one of the benefits of having this turn off every couple of seconds. We can kind of see. Without turning it off, you would have to actually go over, figure out what happened. Actually, you're probably not going to have anything in any of these. So let's just do this one. It doesn't seem like the right thing. Let's do 9. That's what. Because it has to be connected to the conveyor, which it wouldn't be from over there. And we know these aren't connected because, well, the blocks are missing. But it shows us how well things are connected. That's the main benefit of this. We can just take that, do that one while it's... You might as well do this one. See, none of this stuff is connected. And once this is in, a lot more stuff will be connected. We should do right here because that will give us the engines. to it to remove it at the end. Oh, wait. I think it's still do that whole surface over there. Yeah, I should be able to do those. Whichever one is right here. Oh, that's another battery. You can check production. Well, yeah, it's chugging away through all of those. Let's do the rest of those and these just so that we have all the stuff we need for our drives, but this is done. Yep. Get this out. And we can put it over here. Fine. So this is pretty effective. You could add an antenna to the ship and use your antenna to tell it what to do. Actually, there is an antenna. And as long as you're 10 meters off, you can access it. Let's see. Go here. Okay. Oh, the antenna's not on. That's why. And 500 meters. So it's not calling everybody that's around to come take a look at the ship. Okay. And there we go. Base NA3. And you can just turn off the timer. Off. So now I can add the stuff I want to add. Is this actually does exist? It's not connected to anything yet. Mainly because the two things are in the way. So we can do K and A3. Projector. And if you want to really make it easy to get to it, let's go through this and turn off everything so nothing shows up in the terminal. I don't see the projector. Why did it disappear? Let's just show everything for a sec. Projector. Base projector. Show a terminal. So there you go. So now it's very easy to get to it. A few things we need to. So now with that out of the way, we can get rid of the welder. Now it's just making it a bright color that's easy to see. Okay. 3. Base projector back on. And we know we got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. That's the whole center done. That's a huge chunk of material that just got done. And you just keep going through it. after probably an hour of work, you will have a ship that is done. So there may be some other questions you have or techniques you want to see demonstrated. Just leave a comment and I'll demonstrate them. I'll put them together for you. I think this kind of covers a good range of the projectors you'll usually see, unless they're heavily automated, which take a little bit longer to build. But for most server construction, you're going to wind up with this kind of system. And there you go. Like and subscribe. Reach out and let me know if there's anything else you want me to take a look at. And I will happily.
I'm never closing your helmet again.
Uh-oh. I hit P. No doubt. Connectors. So just reach out. I will happily demonstrate other ship designs. And a great thing about being connected is I can quickly refuel the ship and get it up and running, maxed out. That's good to go. Take care.